All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tech Bros. We are live. We got a lot to talk about. We just had Robinhood earnings last week, and it was quite the earnings, and it's going to give us a lot to kind of analyze as we get through the numbers. We'll also talk some AI stuff, what's going on with Nvidia, but excited to be here again. Tanner, Roy, how you doing?
Great, brother. Doing awesome.
Okay. I think let's not waste any time. Let's just get right into Hood earnings. We got a lot to dive into. Got the presentation up. But before we get into the nitty-gritty numbers, obviously Hood did beat on the top and the bottom, 1.27 billion. Big beat on revenue against the already elevated expectations. EPS, they beat by about 5%. Roy, I'll give it to you first. What was your raw reaction when you saw those numbers?
Constant amazement. Honestly, like we go in knowing most of the numbers. We go in having high expectations despite that. And we go in usually being wrong on the low side. And time again, they just execute at an incredibly high level. Some of the numbers are just shocking. Like I won't get into the nitty gritty, but that was a very impressive report, despite us knowing almost everything about it. And of course, they teased October numbers, which were preliminary, but look absolutely ridiculous.
Tanner, your thoughts?
Same sort of thoughts. I mean, this is such an incredible business. I think, honestly, I think about this earnings similarly to Palantir's, where expectations were set high, but somehow they still come above expectations every time. And if you're betting on a 10-year business, it's hard to not pay the premium now for the exceptional culture and growth going forward. So for the long-term investors, Hood is really making sure people understand that they are the the company of choice going forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we were trying to figure out, could they get to 1.2 billion, and they somehow beat that, which was just remarkable. And then they beat on EPS, they bought back their stock. I mean, there's a lot of things to get into, but overall, I think the larger takeaway, to me at least, I don't know, not everyone sees this, but it does feel like $1 trillion is going to happen. I don't know when, I don't know how. I know JP Morgan's only at 800 billion, but I do think as they attack different verticals and you give them enough time to let the thesis play out, they're having another event in December around AI. Like the product velocity is getting to a point where, yes, there will be bear markets. Yes, Hood will probably suffer during that time, but I think they're building the business to be able to withstand any macro, which is why it's also very exciting. It's why people that are trying to short it, keep coming to these conclusions that, like, wait a second, maybe Hood is becoming more of a generational play, not just a cyclical play. And as a result, I think that one day is, probably going to be closer to $1 trillion, but time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, like this is one. Tanner mentioned it. Generational betting over the long term. You mentioned 1 trillion as well. I've seen, since most of the fintech companies reported earnings, there was a poll out that was today between 3 fintechs that I own, including Robinhood, and one other that I don't. All good companies. Is like, which one would you bet on for here? Some people were making the argument for valuations. Like short term, that can make sense. Long term, bet on the generational companies. And this is a generational company that if somebody doubts that, don't look at the share price. I'm not saying, that's not always the best judge, although in this case it does match up. But look at what they've rolled out and how much they've evolved over the last 2 years. It is insane, impressive. And then go look at their expenses. That's it's just shocking. Yeah.
Can I pose you guys a question? Cash just went up quarter over quarter for the first time in many quarters. I don't know the amount. At least 8 or 9 quarters it's gone down. Do you guys think that they are going to make another acquisition here soon? They do say that they're going to continuously spend on organic growth, M&A, and shareholder returns. What do you think that next M&A or acquisition is going to be in? Like, what are they going to target for that next acquisition?
It's a good question. Do you have a guess, Amit? I don't.
Dude, they surprised. I mean, did we really think they were going to get Bitstamp and then I don't know. What was the other one? The AI name that I'm forgetting.
Wonderfy.
Wonderfy. Pluto.
Like, I don't know. They find different verticals to get into. I think the next acquisition I would like to see is obviously a new vertical, and it's a vertical that would allow them to expand a new line of business. I don't think they have to, acquire prediction markets because they already built one, but I have no idea. It's a good question though, Tanner, because there is a lot of cash, and even if they buy back another 100 million of stock every quarter, there's going to be more than enough cash to do something with.
Yeah, my guess, and you probably have something better, is I think they will do acquisitions. It's always been part of their strategy. They have a very good understanding of exactly what they can build. I mean, they can build pretty much anything, but what is a lot more creative to just go out and buy it or partner with somebody. So, and they assimilate those really rapidly too. But is something international. International is that next question mark. They did roll out and mention some more international in the breakout of the numbers this time, but it's that's really, I think, what the market needs to see next year. So it makes sense. I know they have WonderFi, but yeah, maybe something in Europe or the UK or possibly Singapore that helps them, even gain more traction there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that they were going to do something like that until the acquisition of WonderFi, which they've already had some pretty good inroads with crypto, but this actually put them in the certain licenses for Canada. So honestly, what you said is probably the most likely outcome, that it's some sort of international expansion play for licenses, just getting regulatory approval through purchase. But I do think they're going to make a prediction market M&A eventually. They're going to make an acquisition in prediction markets because 50% of their cost for predictions is going to another player. That doesn't seem like Robinhood. Like, they just don't pay that high of fees for a tech stack. They usually build it in-house, and they want to offer, I think eventually they want to go head-to-head with Kalshi and try to win. You don't see them partnering with Coinbase for crypto, and like, they want to do things themselves and offer the best pricing and tech. I don't know if they'll be a partner of Kalshi's forever.
Yeah, and it might be with the way that Kalshi's running. You never know, but that I don't know that they want to be bought out, and it might be too late at this point. Polymarket likewise as well. I did a breakdown. It's been a few, maybe like 2 months. But as far as predictions market, there are some other players there, but you can see it's mostly just Polymarket and Kalshi. Limitless is more short-term type of trading. Myriad looked interesting, but it was really small. And so I don't know. It tends to be that Robinhood will buy out something that's much smaller at a pretty reasonable price, and then they'll actually scale it effectively, which not every company can do. So we'll have to see if it's one of these others. There's a lot of private ones as well.
Yeah.
The thing about prediction markets is, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but they've never acknowledged Kalshi publicly. As in, they've talked about them when asked, but they've never put out a post. They've never done an interview with them. Kalshi has tweeted at them. They've never retweeted it. They've never made it a big deal to tell people that they're working with Kalshi. And I think that goes to your point, Tanner. I don't know if they're going to try to replicate or do their own thing. I don't, if I was the Kalshi founder, I would have set up some serious non-competes when we got into the partnership. But then again, maybe the guy didn't have leverage. Maybe he just wanted the distribution. But they haven't fully expressed a lot of amicable words with Kalshi. Not because I don't think they like them, but I think, to your point, they might be trying to undercut them eventually.
Yeah, and as a reminder, go ahead.
I was just going to say, they're doing Kalshi a huge favor. Kalshi's the small company here,
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know if they just want to bring them to the promised land forever. That's
by the way, Kalshi's not innovative either, right? There's nothing innovative about it.
They're a marketing company.
They're a marketing company. That's it. There's nothing innovative. They just had a first mover advantage with Polymarket. So I think Robin had partnered with them to get immediate access to the market. But to your point, I don't think they need to stay with them. For sure.
Yeah, and just as a reminder too, they did partner. I had to look up the name because it's been a while. Forecast EX LLC was initially the partner that they used for the predictions market when they just kind of dipped their toe in after they got their toe cut off when they couldn't offer the Super Bowl contracts anymore. So
that's IBKR, right?
Forecast EX, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think they're a partner, or they're a subsidiary of IBKR.
It's related, at least. Yeah. So, they already partner with others. I mean, technically just one other. We also might see something kind of like what we talked about, that they partner, or maybe not partner, but build something internationally and just are happy to keep Kalshi here, especially while regulatory stuff clears up. It could be a both and a type of approach. But
okay, so let's get into some deeper numbers. There was a lot of slides to go through, but I think we'll get started with this. Roy, 20 billion in net deposits, highest net deposit rate ever. Kind of your thoughts on the overall asset accumulation of the platform.
I mean, the cool thing is this isn't just assets under custody that are growing, which are substantial, but are still dwarfed by, somebody like a Charles Schwab. But like seeing the assets actually increase, that's really, really impressive. One of the things that I think that they'll target a lot of too, when the bank fully launches, and a lot of people have access to it, is going after people's direct deposit. Now that sounds negative, but I mean, they will incentivize it. They'll be like, hey, we want you here. Here's all the benefits that comes from that. And the more deposits they can get on a regular basis, I mean, that just grows the platform over time, gives it stability, helps, especially too when you do go through a cyclical time. But yeah, really, really incredible. I didn't expect that much.
Yeah, we talked about this before, but I'm curious your thoughts, Amit, because I think me and Roy talked about this. On page 18, it talks about this one, the $100 million businesses that they have, and Bitstamp is listed on there. But Bitstamp made them $16 million this quarter. So how does that ramp to $100 million? And how are they calling this $100 million business if it's essentially a $60 million business for them right now?
Why are you saying it's 60 million?
Because they made $16 million this quarter.
But are they doing this on a trailing 12 months? And that's why?
Yeah, but they only acquired it since June. And like, I mean, maybe they're looking just in the numbers that Bitstamp did in general and counting that, and maybe there were some huge quarters. I guess that happened in Q4, but yeah.
Well, I think the reason they're separating Bitstamp right here is because Bitstamp to them, I think, is going to be heavily rooted in institutional volumes. And that is where they can offer a lot more services. I think there was an interview of Vlad basically talking about everything they're doing for retail. They know they can offer it to institutions. The institutions have been asking for it, but they haven't really focused on it because they've been so focused on retail. So maybe Bitstamp is where they start having more of a Coinbase institutional offering, not just for like trading volumes, but for other services. And that's why they're kind of saying that this deserves to be not just part of the crypto element of the business, but rather, a individualized 100 million annualized revenue business in and of itself.
Yeah, my guess there was, since it's institutional facing, that they may know something about the next. I mean, I'm sure they do, about the next couple of quarters. It gets them over that to where they're not just saying, well, we might accelerate to that. Like, that's not what this chart usually indicates for Robinhood. So they know something is on the way. And the typical modus operandi for Robinhood is acquisition at a good value, incorporate in the ecosystem, and then you scale it. And they've done that time and time again. They're going to do that with Bitstamp, and it already looks like they are.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
The other that you mentioned a bit on that interview, I'm not sure if it was the same interview or another one. Vlad mentioned that he foresaw a point where Robinhood would actually have half of its revenue coming from international. Yeah. That's a ways out, but I mean, they have none right now. So that's pretty easy to value and chart. Like, if you believe him, and looking at their execution, I'm not sure who doesn't.
When did he say this?
I think this was
earlier. Yeah.
I think it was Bloomberg. Yeah.
Wow. And so then is that total revenue? Like, that would include banking, credit cards, and everything? Like, just double this revenue going forward?
That was before the bank launched, I believe. So I don't know. That's a good question for Vlad.
Yeah. That's really cool.
I'm going to see if I can find that clip as well. But yeah, I mean, like, if the institutional part of the business, along with the international part of the business, starts to become a much bigger issue than just retail in the States, I mean, that's where I think the verticals are really there for them to be able to expand. What did you guys think of these transaction volumes? I mean, obviously they were pretty massive. 730, I think, was the most they've ever done in transaction-based revenues. Options, crypto was a little bit light. Equity was 86 million. I think that's the highest they've had in years. Options at 304. Like, do we like it? Do we think it's sustainable? I mean, do we think the higher net worth accounts are coming over and trading more? Or how are you guys thinking of all this volume right now?
I think it'll grow slowly over time, but it's going to be very lumpy. And so we're going to see a lot of quarters like that where it's a super heated bull quarter, and then some that where it's a little bit lighter, especially in the crypto side too. But yeah, over time, I mean, more people trading, more assets under custody. It makes sense. I think the net interest income is actually a lot more sustainable and less cyclical than expected, despite the rate cuts, which there's a couple of analysts that are pointing that direction too.
Yeah, you look to Schwab, their average assets per customer is like $305,000 versus Hood's 12,000, and they only have, I think, 10 million more members. So the room for, I think Data-Driven Investing pointed this out to me, where he said, like, you know, why is per user assets under management growing so much faster than user? But I actually think that's going to be the case going forward. Like, there is just so much more room for assets per customer to grow than per user. And I'm just like realizing whenever you look at Hood, although the valuation is kind of, you know, expecting a lot of that growth, there still is so much future growth to come. And wait, like that's even on the active trader side, like where they make a lot of their money. Imagine if they start going after like really high frequency traders and options players and really try to go after the Tasty Trade users. Yeah. That's where a lot of the money is going to be. And Tasty Trade is still winning users away from Hood. And I just don't think Vlad will continue to put up with that. And clearly, I think they have an A+ engineering team, and I think they'll go up against any single person that they set their, you know, sort of focus on in fintech. Remember, there's been a lot of podcasts recently where Robinhood just figured out, like this is true, that active traders was their core audience. They didn't know that. Like, because they would do these surveys and they'd say, hey, you know, how often are you guys trading? And 95% of people were not saying they were active traders. But it's the small percentage that trades extremely often that makes up for 80% of their revenue. So it was actually pretty hard for them to find that out. And they found it out like pretty much in 2024, 25. So it's, or maybe 23, 24. But there's a lot more growth to go and a lot more products that they can go in without just getting into new verticals. Already in the options market, the equities, crypto, Coinbase, all of these companies have huge market caps and total addressable markets to still figure out. Without getting into, you know, prediction markets and other things that like banking and credit cards. That's all cherry on top. And, you know.
This is why I also think if we get into a bit of a macro, like bearish market, the diversification of them being able to get new investors onto the platform, whether they're high net worth or whether they're the Tasty Trade people, as you said, that's the time to build. Because although overall volumes will go down, if they can expand the number of users on the platform, I mean, in general, it could potentially stabilize volumes. And then when we get back to being bullish, it should really explode volumes. So I think you're right. And that international is what will help with that, right? If they get more people across the world, but also if they just go after real active traders, I mean, it really should be able to sustain the growth of the trading volumes over the next 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it...
We are not having no grab arguments tonight.
A minus, right?
A minus.
I'm happy to learn. I'm curious to learn more about grab.
We still
I do. Slightly related to grab. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Amit, but they have a wallet and it's very pervasive in Southeast Asia. And I wouldn't be shocked if there's a partnership between PayPal and Grab at some point, incorporating each other into PayPal world next year. So.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, so that was transaction volumes. OpEx, not too crazy compared to the revenue growth. GAAP net income. I mean, this is just crazy. 556 million on 1.2 billion in revenue. The operating, I guess, Tanner, can you speak to a little bit of their operating leverage and where do you think that's going over the next year as well?
Well, I don't think it's going anywhere but up because none of this is really one-time benefits. I mean, you're going to see the tax rate go up over time as they, continue to scale. But aside from that, this is just because their tech stack is not based on a bunch of subscriptions from other tech companies that they're paying, high SaaS margins on. They built it in-house, and so they don't have to pay other, tech providers. In fact, they probably have just recently stepped away from Galileo, and they're probably going to end up building their own payment processor as they realize that payments is becoming a larger part of their business. So I don't know. They have the tech talent, and that allows them to build in-house. You're going to constantly see them be at the top of the rung for margins, and that's what allows them to have by far the best pricing, and no one can even compete. By the way, SoFi, it just came out today that SoFi is going to have the crypto trading fees at 1%. So they are coming out of the gate swinging more expensive than Robinhood.
Wait,
and
Coinbase
that's
is
usually what we see.
What's 1%?
SoFi.
Crypto trading
SoFi.
fee. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a lot less expensive than it was, but it's more expensive than Robinhood, and yeah, they're just not going to undercut that or play that game.
That's going to be for every product they have. It just recently came out that SoFi's margin is getting extremely competitive. So instead of being at the 10 or 9-10% or whatever, they're going all the way down to 5.75%. But it's still, even for the under 50,000 trading volume, it's still slightly more expensive than Robinhood's. They just don't care to compete with them because they know, this is the way that I think, Vlad's a sicko and he will fight them all the way down on pricing. You lower than me, I'll go lower than you. He's got the margin to compete with. It'd be like, they could never win a war against, or SoFi could never win a pricing war versus Robinhood.
If you're paying 12% at Schwab for margin and Robinhood's giving it to you for 5 or 4.75, dude, I think that's why they did 153 million in revenue off margin. They did like 114 last quarter. I mean, it's just crazy, but it's like bigger accounts are choosing to save a lot of money by going ahead.
I saw that you pulled up the Rule of 40 chart, which continues to climb up to the right. This is originally, of course, Palantir's graphic, mentioning that because I know you wouldn't know what it is, Amit, but some might not. And Nvidia's right over here. Palantir's right over here. I believe that this was of the, I think it's the top 40 businesses that are weighted over a certain amount. I don't remember what it is exactly, but Palantir is ridiculous. Robinhood, like 131%. Not like the best comp and everything, but I mean, fintech is increasingly going after the Rule of 40, and Robinhood just dominates that. So that's Joshua's graphic, by the way. He updated it for us.
By the way, I mean it in the nicest terms whenever I say that Vlad's a sicko. What I mean is, like, I feel like he shows a lot of these Jeff Bezos-esque qualities where he will just fight, with everything he has to make sure that he has the best product. And if there's any company that wants to compare one-to-one on pricing versus Hood will end up just lowering their prices. Not so like even in deposit, Hood always says they want to be in the top 10, SoFi says they want to be in the top 10, 15%. Hood wants to be in the top 1%. And across all of their products, I just feel like they always want to be in the top 1%, where SoFi always wants to be in the top 20%. And usually, if you're doing what Robinhood does, you don't get very good margins, but somehow they still are.
Yeah, I was going to play this clip right here. I mean, he's going after everything. He is going after everything. Here was Vlad on TBPN discussing more about what direction they're going in when it comes to.
Is this where he talked about you?
Dude, I found out there's a clip where he did. Can we watch that? I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Let's pull it. This just came across my feed, and this was not the clip I was going to play, but apparently he did mention us here.
And, like many people, I go on YouTube and I see, let's see, who's talking about our earnings. And there were actually groups of influencers that watch our earnings live and kind of talk about it. And I sat through the experience, and they were looking at for a long time just a slide deck with our logo in there. It wasn't even the new brand of our logo, it was the old one. And then it's just like, you know, we were on a Polycom, the analysts were on the call, nobody knew whose turn it was to talk. It was a bad experience. And we started just by wanting to clean that up. So we did our first video earnings call 3 quarters ago. And every quarter we've been thinking about how can we do a little bit more. And if you view it from the perspective of a retail shareholder, it can't just be we're reading scripts of information. It has to be engaging. And so it's video, it's getting more stakeholders that can ask good questions live on video if possible, asking those questions in real time. And you know, you guys have figured it out in your forum. I think that what earnings is a community event, and you should think about it as such. And I think the best CEOs, the best companies who really care about engaging retail have to move from thinking about it as a chore to actually one more event where you can get your brand and what you stand for out to as many of your stakeholders and community members as possible. We were
it's like
inspired
thinking
by
about it like
Palantir.
a thinking about it like a product. We were
Here's
inspired by Palantir. He kicked that one in for you, eh?
Here's my question. Do you ever think SoFi would do that?
No.
Because there's no way Noto doesn't know that there's thousands of people watching you in the morning during earnings, right?
Anthony Dono. Yeah, no, he I don't think Anthony cares. I think he likes the Polycom old version of it. I think he is a little bit of the old guard. But you know, it's kind of the interesting thing about Hood, right? Is like, and I heard you on a recent podcast admit, you said, you know, one of the things that you look for whenever you invest is like the founder. How much can you trust the founder and how great they are? And there's something about these unbelievable, like top 1% of 1% CEOs that like Elon or like Jeff Bezos, where Vlad is not thinking about just the product. He's thinking about everything.
Yeah.
He thinks about, wow, our earnings call is boring. Our product, this thing should be in our app. This, like, why are they looking at our old logo? That's not the, like, every aspect. He's touching customer service. He goes and sees how people use their product in their home. Like what does the product look like on their desktop? He's a freak, man, but that's exactly what you want. It's amazing.
Well, and the other thing is, a lot of times when you have a very competent leader at the top, especially as they have success, a lot of pride develops. And so you get to the point where you stop listening to ideas that are different than yours and you don't really want new ideas. That's the opposite of the case with Robinhood and with Vlad in their leadership. That's one of the, you know, Jason's departing from the CFO suite, but like, I think that's maybe why the stock pulled back initially on those ridiculous earnings. But it's like, you know, at this point, we know the culture and of course the leadership as well is mature enough. Jason's a loss, no matter how you slice it. But I think they're going to be great. You know, it's not a bear case at all there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The CFO loss was, I think, the only reason the stock was down, not to mention the day after we had some entire macro drawdowns, but Robin is basically back to the price it was at before earnings. October guidance was pretty wild. Equities at 320 billion in a month, options 206 billion, crypto 32 billion. I think one of our biggest concerns is how are they going to beat Q4 of last year at $1 billion? Doesn't look like it's going to be that hard. So do we think that October was really strong and that if November, December kind of continues even 50% of that, we're going to have a good Q4?
Yeah, I'd like to see, you know, what we've seen the last, you know, today especially, but also on Friday towards the end, the reversal. If for some reason, you know, things end up not working out with the House passing the shutdown bill, we could be in for some more pain. But otherwise, yeah, that the year-over-year comp, they will beat. They're not going to put up like ridiculous 100% revenue year-over-year growth rates. But of course, the predictions market there is one of those big things that they mentioned in October that it equaled what it equaled the previous 3 months combined. And it puts them at, if they do in October every single time, at $300 million, which is insane for a product that didn't exist a year ago or barely existed, I guess.
And And Juan just posted that they put up like one of their strongest numbers here in November. So it looks like it's or strongest weeks here in November.
Yeah.
So it's just incredible. I think they did 5 million this week, $5 million in revenue on prediction markets.
Okay, so let's transition into the prediction markets. Tanner, I mean, 2.5 billion in October versus 2.3 billion in all of Q3. Where do you think the future of this product is going?
I've been trying to think about this a lot lately, and I honestly think once you get international markets, and because it's essentially going to be a crypto product, it's all going to be the same liquidity pools that are trading, worldwide, and then Robinhood essentially goes out, and if they are like in each individual country right now, there's existing brokerages. Like if Robinhood comes to Canada, I still have Wealth Simple, but I do not have a predictions market. So Robinhood has an opportunity to not only go global, but also bring a new product category with it. So they could become the name in all of those areas and then almost cross-sell, instead of cross-selling brokerage into prediction markets, cross-sell prediction markets into brokerage, right? You're already there with your prediction markets. You might as well trade stock. So I think that this product could be that product that ends up 10xing. I mean, potentially even like 25x. They only did 25 million in the month of October. This could be absolutely huge. You're talking about betting on all outcomes. I think it was Roy that said, next season we have Olympics and the guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know sports. The big soccer event.
World Cup.
The World Series, is that what it is?
World Cup.
World Cup.
Dude,
Come
hold
on.
on. How do you not know what the World Cup is?
If you told me what the World Cup is, like if you said, what's the World Cup? I'd say, hey, that's soccer. But if you're asking me, then I struggle.
Like I'm uncultured, but I know what the World Cup is. Like
I know what the World Cup is. I know what the World Cup is. But
does Canada even have a soccer team?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they do.
I mean, of course they do, but I've got no clue what their name is.
Hold on. Hold on. What is the name of the Canadian soccer team?
No, they do have hockey at least, and you probably know the hockey team, or at least one of them up there.
Yeah, the Leafs.
Bro, they're called the Canucks.
They must not be big.
Okay. Les Roges, the Canucks. All right. Anyway, so you think prediction markets when they go globul? What?
I don't know what they're called, but I know they're not called the Les Roges.
I definitely butchered that. That was for sure.
The Reds.
Okay, so Roy, your thoughts on prediction markets? I mean, do you think it just keeps? I mean, like, because sports is from September till basically May, like heavy sports volume every year, at least NBA, NFL, and then you throw in the World Series. So I think for a good 7 out of 12 months of the year, we should be getting some really monster numbers, and it's only going to grow over the next few years.
Yeah. There's, I mean, I can't wait to see what the Super Bowl looks like in terms of volume. That's going to be absolutely ridiculous and all over the place. Now, there is more competition ramping up. DraftKings talked about it in the earnings call. They initially, like a year ago, they said, or not even a year ago, I think just 2 quarters ago, they're like, absolutely not. Predictions markets are stupid. Now they're like, okay, we're going to go out of business. So yeah, we're doing predictions market. There will be others as well internationally. Like it's tough. Like right now, it's so early, and regulation can really change things. I'm actually more concerned by regulation than I am by competition. The reason why I'm not concerned about competition is Robinhood, at least here in the United States, it's already where people have money. That's the hardest thing, is to get people to send your money into DraftKings or whatever. That's why they do the matching bonuses initially, or at least from what I understand. So it's made so much sense just for them to grow. Like we've seen them ramp volume that just like Kalshi would be not half of where they were, but mostly if it wasn't for Robinhood. Now, so competition, they're going to be fine, but regulation could put a damper on it. And we could see regulation here in the United States. They go through, if you go through the 10Q, you can see all the different court cases at different state levels. All of those really, except for one, is going well. And it's mostly levied at Kalshi directly. There are some countersuits as well that Robinhood has filed alongside of Kalshi too. which may be why they continue to partner with them. But internationally as well, regulation can change. I don't have a good handle on what that actually looks like at all. But if it doesn't, if regulation is kind of where it's at, there's some things that they need to define a little bit more, but it's just, hey, go for it. This isn't going to stop you. International could be absolutely ridiculous. The reason why is there's some places in the world where it's more of a investing culture than it is a betting culture, but that is actually abnormal worldwide. Much of especially mainland Europe is one of those places where it's mostly a betting culture, much more so than an investing culture. And so, like Tanner said, flywheel effect. You bring somebody on. Now, banking probably won't be available internationally, or at least not for a while, but somebody comes in for the predictions market. They're like, hey, I actually need to think about long-term investing. They start investing. Maybe they recognize, and credit cards maybe roll out internationally. There's all these other products that they can offer, which are differentiated, and it just helps them grow the ecosystem. And instead of just having one way, kind of being dependent on the bull market cycle, the slow transfer of generational wealth to the next generation, they line up with so many different growth verticals. And so it's very impressive what they could do. So just to sum up everything, if regulation doesn't prevent this, I could see in a few years' time that they have reported an earnings that has the revenue that they have right now just from the predictions market.
Do you have that other clip of Vlad Tenev? Because I don't think I've seen that other one that you were going to show.
Yeah, this is him talking about the ability for people to invest in pretty much anything they want, which I guess gets us into the tokenization conversation as well.
For a while, the trend was really toward indexing, and ETFs as a new product got adoption. They started getting tons of assets. When we were first starting Robinhood, we were kind of moving in a different direction. And there was some skepticism from investors who thought that everything was just going to be indexed and indirect, and it would just be people investing in broad market indices and diversified funds. And we made a bet in the other direction that, in fact, no, people want to move away from indexes. They actually want to express their viewpoints more precisely. And so you're seeing more granular investments, individual equities, but not just individual equities. You're seeing options trading, the rise of zero-day options, same-day expiry. And I think prediction markets are a continuation of that, because you're starting to see markets for stocks and whether they're going to outperform earnings, for example. A lot of people used to play the presidential election and have a thesis there that they would play by trading stocks or crypto, but now you can do that directly. So I think it's getting even more granular. People will have very specific theses that they understand and they have conviction on, and we're giving products for them to express that. And on the land side, that's super interesting, because I would bucket that under alternatives, right?
Yeah.
Like, people want access to alternatives. The only way to have access to alternatives right now is through REITs or these diversified indices. But what people really want is to invest in an individual private company as easily as they can invest in a public stock. And maybe they want an individual piece of land or a property in a neighborhood that they think is going to do well, rather than just some like commercial real estate fund that has a portfolio everywhere, because they can better understand whether that's going to go up or down. And I think we're moving in that direction. Tokenization is solving a lot of the technical problems with that. And of course, there's regulatory hurdles that once we get through, I think will open up lots of alternative assets to retail investors.
Just seems like Robin is going to be the place where you trade everything, dude. It really does seem like that.
Do you not feel like, sorry, a little off topic, that Vlad, whenever you look at his face, is the exact same every time, same sort of Johnny Depp look, but his hair is like on shuffle. You could just pick, he's got 1,000 different hairs over the last year, and like a sim, you could just swap any of them on, but as long as his face and facial hair stays the same, it's still Vlad. It's different every time I see him.
Yeah, literally every month or every time he does a public appearance, it's a different hairstyle. It's quite incredible, to be honest. It really is.
It looks good in all of them.
Or have they cloned him?
Yeah.
That could explain a few things.
How are you all at these same places? Oh, I'm actually in 2 places at once. Yeah.
Oh, but bro, he is turning into an absolute monster. I mean, like, it's just quite incredible to see. And the growth they're putting up is starting to really justify a lot of people taking them seriously. I mean, 330 billion in assets. I think by the end of 26, they should be closing in on 700-800 billion potentially getting to $1 trillion by mid 2027. Obviously, it depends on how the market does, but like if we can keep this broader bull market going, I don't know, dude. And then when you open up tokenization and real estate and private credit and all these other things that Vlad wants to get on the blockchain, like it just feels like that TAM is 100x more than what we thought 2 years ago.
Yes. One of the things also that stood out to me, if I could share one other thing, was the net interest income. That was really okay. So I'll throw this up here.
Vlad's hair prediction market. That's a good one.
They'll have that at some point, but yeah. So credit cards went up. That's good. I mean, this was just up and to the right. And the kind of the surprising thing is the rate cuts came a little bit later in the quarter, but Jason, CFO, mentioned, I think 2 quarters ago, that each rate cut over an annual, over a full year, hits about $50 million on the top line in terms of net interest income. But that other aspects of the business would reaccelerate, so it might actually be a wash. That's what Devin Ryan, the analyst that also covers Robinhood, mentioned in his breakdown. But you can see, like, this number right here was shocking last time. Securities lending, we saw it actually almost double, and then another step up at $87. They did a good job of talking about what this is, and a lot of what this is related to the IPO market. So these are the annual IPOs, from 2000 all the way up until now. We are not all the way through the year, so there will be more. We're not going to hit 400 probably unless something weird happens. But so basically, as companies IPO, there's more trading volume, which benefits Robinhood, but also it creates harder to borrow conditions just because of the nature of IPOs for a lot of these stocks. And as a result, then that securities lending really spikes up. Now, there's some other vectors on that too, but my hypothesis basically is, actually, let me just ask you guys this way. Is it surprising that we haven't seen more IPOs yet, despite there being several years since AI really became real with ChatGPT, and we're still in a bull market?
Especially for the big names, I'm super surprised. I'm surprised that ChatGPT hasn't gone public. I'm surprised that Anthropic hasn't gone. These companies are essentially just needing capital, and yet they're not going to the.
Wait. Surprised about what? You think these guys want to be accountable to shareholders at this stage of their growth journey?
Well, I just think just at the amount that they're raising capital and the amount of money that.
Yeah, but the money they can get the money from anywhere. The money's not hard to get. It's easy. I mean, the amount of people willing to give them money.
Well, that's right for OpenAI, kind of, but they need so much. And what's happening, I don't have that article ready. I can't remember where it's at, but I did a lot of research on this and found somebody else that wrote and did some extra as well. Most of I think it's the amount outside of the very top 3 or 4 or 5 private equity companies. That's where all the money is going to. All the other ones that are still massive, still interesting and amazing companies, they are having a hard time raising capital. I actually thought it was the opposite until I started doing the research on this. And it was the lowest levels that it's been in 10 or 15 years in terms of private equity. It's a bit of a bear market right now. And so I think, it's, for me anyway, it's shocking that we're in the middle of this technological revolution, and it's been long enough for companies to go through, or at least most of them go through and really ramp up and look to be public, but they haven't yet. I think that as long as the bull market's intact, there's no really weird macro conditions that prevent that overhang, that we're going to see this maybe not go up to 1,000 like we saw, 2021. That was ridiculous. But we might see the second highest amount ever, at least since 2000, this next year. We might break 500 companies, which is really, really good for Robinhood. It's good for, market participants in general too. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to invest in companies that you know and you love. Yeah.
What do you guys think about Robinhood Ventures starting to want to get into these AI names and allow public investors to buy into these private names? I mean, it's been part of the mission for a long time, but just the way that they're going about it, making funds themselves.
I'll let you go first. I want to pull something up related to that, Amit.
I like it. I like the closed-end fund idea around it, given I just learned what a closed-end fund is a week ago. But I think it's a good idea. I think they're going to try to use Vlad's connections to get into some really hot names. And, going back to the point Roy made, I think it's really healthy that we're not seeing a lot of these companies go public, because that's usually when we're at the top, right? When everyone's looking for public liquidity. So the fact that some of these names are like, we'd rather stay on the private markets, we'd rather get financed through our VCs, and there's plenty of money in the VCs or even the debt markets to give them the equity, and they don't have to go to retail investors to kind of bid up their stock. I think that kind of keeps the market going. Now, I don't know why Stripe has not gone public or Discord, but at least OpenAI and Anthropic.
Well, Stripe legitimately doesn't need capital.
Yeah,
That's also true. That's where you're right.
Anthropic and OpenAI is a different story. And to be accountable to shareholders, I mean, I appreciate you for sharing the clip on X, but you were maybe the only person on X that shared the defense from Satya. Everyone cut it off, the Sam Altman's thing of just like his tirade. You included Satya actually saying there's never been a goal that Sam Altman hasn't obliterated. I mean, he has shot past everything that he had set his mind out for. So, or OpenAI has. So, I think that they would be very good in public markets, but I'm a little biased being a wanting shareholder.
So this was what I wanted to pull up. This was from their press release that they issued, at the beginning of the earnings call. And so we already talked about predictions market, but what shocked me was right here. They said we also are increasing our investment in new growth areas like predictions market and Robinhood Ventures that we believe have significant potential. If you told me prior to this earnings call, they're going to talk about 2 growth areas that they're going to ramp up that have significant potential, predictions market I would have gotten, and I would not have gotten Robinhood Ventures. I think that you're right, Tanner. This is an area that I need to do a lot more thinking about, because if they're calling this out, they're usually pretty good at figuring out what is going to be a very good growth lever to pull. And Robinhood Ventures, I'm like, okay, this is nice. It's accretive, but it's not a huge deal. Maybe it's a huge deal. So they don't highlight it like this for no reason.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just think Vlad is really looking at the private markets and seeing how they can get retail access to it. Obviously, the more retail that gets access to it, the more users they can get on the platform, because people want those types of stocks in their or those assets in their portfolio. Tokenization in Europe kind of solves it, but in the United States, you have these accreditation laws. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. It's just one of many verticals they're working on. Right? It's like Robinhood Ventures is pretty cool, but it's one of a bunch of different ideas that they have. And so it's just really cool to see them execute, dude. I don't know if we're going to get another company that's doing it in the way that they're doing it and with the culture that Vlad is setting. So I don't know. Now, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you could give a letter grade to Robinhood's earnings, what would you give it?
I would give it an A++++. I mean, whatever the highest level. I mean, dude, what was wrong with that quarter? Like, I was looking at the Bloomberg headlines, and to get a headline, they were like misses on crypto. I was like, goodness great. That's the best they could come up with. Like,
and I don't even know how that's true.
Yeah, maybe
that must be some really high expectations on crypto, because it was a higher take rate than what I expected.
Yeah, it was a good quarter.
Yeah, A+ for sure, and Palantir was the other A+ for companies that I covered. SoFi was right up there too. Like, it's a good quarter for.
What would you give SoFi?
I would give it an A+.
Tanner?
A+.
Okay.
I think this as good as
question me, you little.
I wanted if you were going to say A-. That's all. I just.
He's not going to take the bait.
You better.
And if I say that it's an A+, Tanner better say it's an A+. He's a SoFi guy, so.
Yeah, and you know what other company is going to have an A+ quarter? Nvidia.
Okay, let's transition to Nvidia. So your boy Burry is short, bro. Did you not convince him enough that you don't go short Nvidia, or what's going on here?
Yeah, no, I just said that there's 2 companies that I think are the biggest frauds. They don't make any money. They're sort of like AI wrappers. They don't really sell a real product, and that's Palantir and Nvidia.
Dude, this was the best day for Nvidia since April.
Yeah,
like people are overlooking. I when I heard that stat, I was like, really? It was the best day in 7 months. It was.
Cheers,
the best
guys.
day in 7 months.
Good feeling to be an investor in them. Yeah, so this, like, I think we talked about it last time, but him being, well, technically it's not a short, it's puts, but effectively it's shorting. him doing that on Palantir is like, it's I wouldn't do it based on valuation or anything, amazing company and all that. But Nvidia is like, what world does this actually make sense? And Chris, he highlighted part of the argumentation of Michael Burry there was AI chip demand is built when it lies, apparently, according to Michael Burry. And that seems to be
while you're talking, I'm going to pull it up. And Tanner, I don't know if you saw this, but he's basically saying all the hyperscalers are frauding their investors by overstating earnings because they're not accounting for enough depreciation in the GPUs.
It is true. I won't even say that he's 100% wrong. If there is a place where you can have the biggest amount of accounting fraud, it is, or in this space, it is saying that the depreciation is going to take much longer than before. However, I was talking with somebody that's actually in this space, and they said the reason is that because the difference between training and inference, it's much less stress on the actual GPUs, so they last much longer. He was actually talking about how some of the inference that's being done today is still on like 8-year-old GPUs. I had no idea. So if that is the case, that could be a reason why they're saying that the life cycle of those GPUs is going to be much longer over time. But even I think Amazon even brought theirs down from 6 last year to 5 this year. I don't remember what Nebius's is. It's extremely low though. They are being very conservative.
Yeah, that last line though, more detail coming November 25th. Stay tuned. Is this, and you posited this, Amit. I like the question on X of like, is this Burry's next big short?
Dude, everything he's been tweeting has been making it very obvious he is not a fan of this AI CapEx cycle. So the Nvidia Palantir thing, I don't even know if he's still in the position, but whatever's coming November 25th, unless it's a book launch, I would imagine it's a further explanation of his positioning. I just don't know if it makes sense because going short Nvidia means you're short the market.
A book launch, so that would be.
Well, I mean, he was short the market last time, but it definitely could be a big short 2.0. It kind of has similar things where I guess in the mortgage crisis last time, people said, "Hey, it's a lot, but people have looked at the numbers; it makes sense." So to say that trillions of dollars going into buy GPUs, someone's going, "Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but to the experts, it makes sense." But I think there's a lot more utility here, and the return is much higher than even mortgages were. Like, I mean, we're talking like, I don't know. But artificial intelligence, I use it every single day. I know for a fact businesses are using it every single day. It's not just a compute from a few companies. It's compute from every single startup in business now. Like, the hyperscalers are serving hundreds of thousands of businesses that are saying they need more capacity, right? I think entire new sectors are going to be created in the AI space, and to bet on all of that, to bet against all of that, is a little too early in my opinion.
Well, the weirdest thing to me was he's calling out, like Oracle especially, but, all the hyperscalers. Nvidia is not a hyperscaler. They're not doing maybe some unusual things, maybe not as far as the depreciation stuff. They're the beneficiary. Why are you shorting them?
No, but if the hyperscalers crack and then they say, okay, yeah, we'll tighten the belt, then that goes directly to Nvidia.
I guess so. But like, I would rather, like, if you're calling out Oracle basically for fraud, short Oracle. Like, what in the world?
I do think Oracle is the weirdest name out of all of them.
I agree with that. And we were all together in Vegas when Oracle had that monster quarter, and all of us were looking at that stock go from 230 to 350, which is what it did in less than 24 hours. And all of us were like, "Oh, I guess we missed it." And then when you look under the hood, you're like, "This fucking thing didn't deserve to go to 350." Like, and now it's right back to 240.
Yeah.
Dude, their debt to equity ratio is 500%. Like, I get that they're taking out debt to finance all this stuff, but bond market's not loving it. They're okay with it because, they're demanding 6.5%, not like 10 or 15%. But this one is weird. I just don't know if that means that the entire thing's a bubble.
Agreed.
Okay. The whole thing is just weird though. Like, and then like the timing of the November 25th. Like, I feel like the timing of the release was probably very intentional with the 13F and Palantir's earnings.
No, but then, Roy, how do you make sense of Burry saying that Palantir doesn't understand how to read a 13F?
I think he's just salty, and he took Alex Karp's comments personally. He doesn't like to be challenged, and I think he rarely is, other than people teasing him that he predicted one of like 500 bear markets accurately or whatever it is. But yeah,
Like, what
I'm
does
curious.
this even mean? How do they not know how to read a 13F? The 13F says you have a put position. If you don't, that's fine, but legally, no one freaking knows. So how is it Palantir's fault? But like, what is he even saying?
I don't know if he's saying like he maybe got out like really quickly, or
Yeah, he's just continuously said that he's not short.
and technically puts is not the same as shorting, but
But
give
it's
me
a
break.
bearish bet. That's the point. Like, he's
Yeah.
bearish. Like that's
Yeah,
the part
it's-
we're talking about, you know?
He's missing the forest for the trees. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so then Tanner, Nvidia earnings. I mean, we're not getting China. Trump kind of.
Do you think that it's weird, Amit, that whenever he tweeted, he said to say that he wasn't short, he said, "I'm not 5'6". Did you see that comment?
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you find that weird being 5'6"?
Well, I'm not 5'6". Okay, I'm
Are
5'7".
you quoting Burry or?
Yeah, Burry also said it's completely fine. Like, I'm not saying it. I'm not.
No,
I was just curious. I wanted to check in.
Objectively, I am not 5'6".
I'm not talking about your grinder profile. I'm saying what I like. I met you in real life. I know how tall you are.
Dude,
In that life, how you doing?
that extra inch really matters. Okay, it is not 5'6". It is 5'7". You're wrong about 5'6". Trust me, I know. And on a good day, it's 5'8". Okay, so I don't think we have to continue that line of reasoning anymore.
Hey, no problem. I saw your basketball shoes. They got big heels.
Dude, no, but legit, I'm 5'7", dude. I know what 5'6" looks like because I've had this debate with myself all my life. I am 5'7". I am not 5'6".
So you're saying I could put 6 foot on my profile?
You're not. You're definitely like 5'10", but you're taller than me. I get it, but you're not 6 feet. Roy is a legit 6 feet.
Well, I just
But
thought
I'm
if we're
not
just
5'6".
if we're just giving inches,
No. It's not giving inches. I'm a legit 5'7". Without my freaking shoes on, I'm 5'7".
all right. I yield to the jury.
Anyway, the so Nvidia's not getting China. We know that. And I don't think it's coming anytime soon. So do you think the demand cycle is good enough for them to, surpass 5 trillion even without China going into next year?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like we've seen from the hyperscalers. We've seen again this earnings. They're not decreasing, but actually increasing capex expenditure. They're not the only ones either. China being closed is unfortunate. I also think that can change, and it probably will change. But Jensen has figured out very well to be able to pivot his products, come out with new processes that meet the guidelines, or pull levers, the United States government or with China to try to get things happening. So, yeah.
Sorry, I changed the whole vibe of your chat, bro.
They're telling me to ask you, what do you know about non-bread?
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing that like is currently right now. Yeah. I said chai tea, and then people are like, chai means tea. I'm like, I'm fully aware, but I'm also the same guy that says non-bread. Okay, I'm sorry, bro. Like it's non-bread.
I've never heard anyone say non-bread. I've heard people say chai tea. I've never heard non-bread.
You've heard non-bread.
Roy, have you ever heard someone say non? People say non.
No, it's just non.
Dude, that's
otherwise you're like, so you want to rap or something? Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even sound like it makes sense.
Well, it's like saying chai tea. It's like saying It's like saying TT or bread.
But the problem is Starbucks made that normal. That's why you say chai tea. I understand why. But non-bread, what taught you non-bread? Or is that a Canadian thing or something?
No, maybe. I don't know.
They put gravy on their fries, so I don't know.
Don't knock it till you try it. It's good.
So what, Tanner? You think we're going to 220 after earnings? Like, what do you think?
Ooh, no, I don't know how much the earnings in particular have bumped the stock. I just don't think we're going to go down on earnings. So I don't need a pump on earnings. I don't think we need a big earnings surprise because China revenue is not going to be there. Like, I don't know. But if we do end up seeing throughout the quarters that China does somehow come back, it's not seeming like that's going to be the case. I mean, it constantly feels like we are, and then it just gets taken away from us again.
Yeah.
But I just think continued execution and the stock will go up. I don't think we need to see an after earnings $220. Sorry for the non-answer. I like.
No, I agree. I think it would be healthy for the stock to be flat on a really good earnings. Like it would continue to get the multiple to come down, allow the market to consolidate, normalize 5 trillion. And then, hopefully in 2026, you have a bit more of a healthy rise. So I agree. I don't think you need to see 220 by end of year.
I wouldn't hate it though.
I wouldn't hate it either. Do you guys broadly feel 2026, the AI trade is intact, or are you feeling any cracks based on the state of the consumer?
So AI will be fine. Stocks might pull back anyway. The one concern is like the bifurcated economy where the lower end consumers, we've seen that with, I think initially Kava was the first really good read on that, where they mentioned that the discounting environment is the most severe that he's seen since 2008. We've seen that with Chipotle and several others as well, where you can read like one or two of these as individual issues and just say no big deal. But no, I can see it in real life too. Like there's people that are hurting. The shutdown did no favors. People that are on food stamps, which is 14% of the American population, had essentially half rations in the month of November, which is not great. Thankfully, it looks like the shutdown might kick the can down the road, at least not be fully resolved. But no, that's a concern of mine for sure. Now, I do think that there is help on the way, as long as the government is not just perpetually shut down, which it won't be, in the form of tax refunds. So the IRS did not. So the tax law changed in a favorable way that benefits a lot of people, including lower income. And when we actually have tax refund season, there is, I think it was an average of about $400 per individual, if I'm not mistaken, that's filing taxes of what they'll be getting back in a return. That they had not anticipated just because the IRS didn't adjust the withholding ratios. So that's going to be a mini stimulus for a lot of people. So I think that we're going to be fine at least through Q1, maybe Q2. But I mean, it depends. We can't have the government shut down for like 9 months and cordoning off Arizona spaces where you can't fly anymore and all that, stuff. And I mean, it's tough out there. Now, I also hope, by the way, that we don't do the stimulus checks just because they do inflate. But that would help a lot of people too. So, but yeah, I think the AI trade is very much intact in 2026. There are some cracks. I don't think they're deep enough. I think we'll just climb that wall of worry.
Tanner, can you pay attention to the podcast instead of laughing at every single freaking...
I'm trying to listen until someone said, let them eat non-bread. And I lost it. Dude. Couldn't recover from there. Every stupid comment got me.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
All right, so we're bullish.
We're bullish. Let's talk some stock. I'm back.
No, we're done, bro. The show's over.
No. I'm just getting started. I'm back.
Okay, let's end on this. Let's end on this last question.
Okay, refresh.
This guy.
I'll be back.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy today, dude? Like, this guy, is he drunk, dude? Like, is he smoking that Canadian Kush or something? Like, you have too much non-bread tonight. Are you guys buying the meta dip?
Say that again.
Are you guys buying the meta dip? Because,
yes.
Okay, I was just about to say I bought it tonight in the after hours, 6:32.
I think this is going to go down as like one of the most obvious buys. And I'm not saying it can't go low. And sorry. For my portfolio, absolutely not investment advice. If it goes down to 400, I don't want to see a bunch of comments like, or like, this is with the small, I'm not actively buying, in huge percentages of my portfolio. I have no money right now. It's all locked up in stocks I already love. But just like the Google hate to the Amazon hate, Meta is being hated. And whenever I go through the numbers, I'm just seeing better ad impressions, more users, more revenue per user. Like, there's nothing to hate. I actually like the CapEx spend. Keep it going.
Well, of course you like the CapEx. I mean, I get why. But look, no, I agree. So I have a friend who's a heavy Meta shareholder. It's his number one position. I called him last week and he told me he's not happy about this CapEx spend and he thinks like the street deserves to take it down. And so he said it's good to wait a quarter. And I think that's fair, which is why I didn't like make a full on position, but I'm like slowly getting into it. But then to Tanner's point, you look at the numbers and like just like taking everything out of the business and just looking at the core multiple that it's trading at. Like, would I love 550, 570? Yes. Am I going to be grateful enough to get that? I don't know, dude. It's an incredible business. I don't know if the street takes it down that much unless you get a whole macro downturn. And at that point, everything gets on sale. So for a Mag 7 to independently go down, at around 550, we're talking about almost 25, 30% against the market. Like something really bad has to happen. And when I looked at the numbers again today before, I think I bought it like 6:30, 7 p.m. So a couple hours ago, I was just like, the numbers aren't bad at all. There's just this like narrative thing. They're phenomenal.
They made $50 billion not on a Q4. Like next quarter is Q4.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's.
I think if the street continues to get upset about his CapEx, we will get another opportunity potentially below 600. But I don't think we can be greedy enough for that. I mean, it is down below. It touched 800 4 months ago. So, I know it's down from 750, but I do think if anyone's interested, like nibbling here is not crazy. And then if you get a better opportunity, you get a better opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an obvious buy and I'm not going to buy it. But I mean, like looking at the numbers, great numbers. I think Algo's got ahead of it and just tore it down, and people followed. Maybe stop losses as well. This is one. It's an incredibly run company, incredible CEO. I don't like them at all, and that's why I'm not buying them. But I'm tempted here, and that should tell you all you need to know about Meta. Is that if I'm tempted, and it wouldn't be a long-term investment, it'd be a swing trade. Yeah, it's looking cheap now. Is there a price if Meta gets like just so stupid? Maybe I'll just do like call options or something like that. I'll have to wrestle with that one. It's hard for me to ignore free money just sitting there, but right now I can do it. It's not easy.
I actually closed the chat, Amit, and then like I brought it over to private chat so I couldn't see them typing, and then you're pulling them up and putting them on screen.
Oh my God. But no, I agree. I mean, like, look, I don't have. I mean, I've never really owned Meta other than 2022, and then I sold that to buy Palantir. So since then, I've never had a chance to get in, and so I'm just like, look, if I really do think the multiple doesn't make sense here, and that I do want to be long, at some point you got to bite, So 630, that's what I'm in. Tim, you look like you're ready to explode laughing.
No, dude.
One last question. Do you think, Tanner, it could ever become like a Google size for you, or you don't think it's you think it can? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If it continues to dip, definitely. It's the cheapest Mag 7 name right now. And we're talking about Meta with an extremely young CEO that built this from from nothing.
Yeah.
He is an incredible, like whenever you're talking about top 5 CEOs, I mean, we're not talking about judging him based on his character, his lizard personality, all of these things. We're talking about like just from how can you get a number to go from 0 to 50 billion a quarter? He has to be one of the best CEOs of all time. And he's 42.
I agree.
So how do you bet against that?
And honestly,
it's so forward looking. Sorry.
And yeah, the forward looking gets into trouble sometimes, but only temporarily. Obviously, there is a point that people can talk to him and be like, hey, you're doing too much, too far out. And he reins it back in, which is also a sign of a very skilled CEO. If any company, and I think that some will, are able to develop actual immersive VR and that sort of world, like, the metaverse, that is going to be Meta over any other company that's out there. I don't think Microsoft will be the first one to do that. Apple may eventually follow, but they're not doing so well in innovation. Google's not even really focused in that direction. Nvidia, it's Meta, and that is going to be a massive, massive product. That I don't think that that's priced in at all. You're buying a business that right now is at a 28 PE that's growing absolutely ridiculous, high margins. There's not really much disruption, and where they're being disrupted, they're actually benefiting more from like the agentic shift to the internet. Zuck gets it, and he's not afraid to spend. And at a moment, like if they want to like just kind of slow down the spend or whatever, like the numbers will look even more ridiculous. But man, it's hard to ignore the stock here. It really is.
No, I agree. And that's why, I listened to what my friend had to say last week, and I took it seriously, but he's been long Meta since 200. So I'm like, at its core, his argument makes sense, and I trust him because he's been long the stock. But that doesn't mean I'm going to get, a 550 entry, especially if we're in a bull market. So that's why I bought a little bit at 659, but I bought more today at 630 to like actually get me interested. And if it goes below 500 or 600, then we'll buy more.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. I bought some Grab.
You're lying.
Oh
no, someone gave you money in the community fund to buy it, didn't they?
A good amount of money. A good amount. But
well, dude, it's funny you bring it up because just now I got a notification. I'll talk about this tomorrow on the market open, guys, but this story is getting juicy. SoftBank is trying to get rid of the GoTo CEO. GoTo is their biggest competitor in Indonesia. There's been rumors over the past week that Grab is looking to actually complete an acquisition of them. SoftBank has a stake in both of them. And Bloomberg, this came out at 10:16, 30 minutes ago. Bloomberg is saying Masa-san's trying to get rid of this guy.
Interesting.
It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild.
So does SoftBank also have a position in Grab or only in GoTo?
Both. And GoTo has been a disaster for them for the past 5 years. I mean, Grab's also not been good share price wise, but Grab is growing, even if the stock is like that. GoTo is kind of growing, and the stock is just like that. So I think and one of the reasons is because they're so hyper competitive because of the margin profile. So if you were to just combine both of them, even if you got rid of the fintech part of GoTo, I mean, that could really accelerate margins and overall growth. And they filed for an extraordinary general meeting on December 17th. So that looks like where potentially you could see some action. Well, Tanner, you own the stock now, so.
Yep. I can't wait. Go. Is it? I don't even want to insult the guy by getting his name wrong. Anthony. Is it Anthony?
Anthony Tan.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, but I didn't want to get it wrong. Okay.
All right. I think that's it for us, folks. We'll be back next week. The biggest market catalyst now is Nvidia, and that's next week. So until then, the shutdown should be over, and hopefully that continues to allow the markets to get some room to go higher.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. That's it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.